The main event can make or break a show. It doesn't matter how good the undercard is, if the main event is a stinker, the entire event can be tainted.
Here on Main Event Maniacs, we will revisit some of the most memorable main events in sports entertainment history, good and bad across various promotions and eras of professional wrestling. I'm Jay and happy to be joined by the two-night to my one-night WrestleMania good friend and co-host Brian. What's going on, B?
Not a whole lot, man. Excited. WrestleMania season is upon us.
Yes.
We pulled out a good one for this WrestleMania season. I think a good one anyway.
An historic one, indeed.
Yes.
The first time women main evented WrestleMania.
Yes, and the last one-night WrestleMania.
Yes. Remember when the show was 7 hours long?
This was one of them, yes.
Yes, we'll get into that. But yeah, we're talking about a big one, though. You're right.
WrestleMania 35, triple threat women's match, Raw, SmackDown titles on the line, Ronda Rousey, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair. This was a big deal. Like, they had just gone through that whole, stand up for women's wrestling and the Evolution pay-per-view. And now we've got the first time ever, they brought Ronda Rousey in, and she's going to be headlining this main WrestleMania main event. It's a pretty exciting time for WWE.
I mean, it was. The women's division was definitely on fire at the moment, and the three biggest stars are involved in this main event. And I was pumped for it when it happened. I thought this makes total sense. This is exactly the time to do this. These are the hottest properties in the business right now, men or women, period. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey were draws, and they were news. They were on ESPN and CBS Sports and all over the internet, and then obviously all the wrestling news, and because they were making waves and headlines, putting on great show after great show, dealing out some great feuds, and they had earned this spot is the point, and had earned it years before. Honestly, the division had, but they just never found a way to make it work right. And I got to thinking back, I was like, when could they have done this before, right? And honestly, I couldn't pinpoint a moment. I'm like, they hit it at the apex to do it here at WrestleMania 35.
They really did. I mean, you had, the Divas were one thing, right? They were around for a while, and people liked them, but they were getting just nothing for TV time.
Yeah.
And then you had that crop just come up, right? Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Becky
That came
Lynch.
Out of NXT.
Yeah, they all came up from NXT around the same time and really just lit a fuse under that Divas division at the time and sparked this whole thing. And now, we've ditched the Divas gimmick. We're a women's division now where we have women's champions on both brands. And, these were I would say the top three. Of Ronda Rousey, by name value alone, brought in a lot of prestige to that women's division. And then Becky and Charlotte were on top of the world.
Yeah, it's hard to underestimate the impact that it was to get somebody like Ronda Rousey and her from not just to be like a one SummerSlam gimmick or something like that, like they'd had before. She was a decorated UFC fighter, had been a champion, and she went out like every other champion in that division goes at. You get knocked out by somebody else, and then you move on in life because it does pass you by. But she was still incredibly in shape, great fighter, had a huge name, and she brought I don't want to use the word legitimacy, but like the fact that she had such a fighting background gave her a different edge than the sports entertainers and things like that. And then Charlotte Flair, her story is incredible because this wasn't what she was going to do. She got into this later in life after her brother Reed died and found out, oh, holy cow, not only am I good at it, I'm great at it. And she had all the charisma that her dad had, but with a different kind of athleticism. And then Becky Lynch was just this, unbelievable worker that had a ton of fire. She got over real quick with the crowd, and like you say, they worked their way up through that crowd of them in NXT where they were just tearing it apart down in Florida, and they were the next ones up. And so when you got Ronda in the mix, it just added this whole air of supremacy to a division that was getting wasted, like you said, with a gimmick that had played out. And it wasn't just about the look anymore. You had a look, but you also had to be able to do stuff in the ring. And it plays forward even to today, man. I mean, we're recording this not long after Elimination Chamber, and I was showing my wife, because she watched with me the day after, photos of Liv Morgan after that chamber, and she was beat to absolute pulp, but these were the ones that really brought that kind of physicality back into it, and then would show that off, next day and stuff like, hey, next time you want to think wrestling's fake, kids, we're taking real hits, real bumps, stuff's going down. So this was like I said, was just an apex moment for the women's division and was such a great time to bring this out on the biggest stage imaginable, the WrestleMania stage.
Yeah, and you got to remember, too, that Becky Lynch hit on it just under a year before with the man gimmick, right?
Yeah.
Like, she had been floundering a little while in it. She was always looked at as one of the best workers that they had, but she was kind of lost in the shuffle, and then she got that man gimmick going and took off like a rocket, like massive over with the crowd. And we'll get into some of the things that kind of happened to her on this journey to WrestleMania here, because it's interesting. She was at her peak, I would say, when she was originally supposed to face Ronda Rousey. And we'll get into why that didn't happen as we do the build-up. But yeah,
and I love that gimmick, just as a note on it, because the whole idea was like, I'm better than any of these. I'm the man. I'm the one running this thing. And that was before like Taylor Swift came out with that song and stuff. And I was like, oh man, they almost lined those up. But I mean, it's a great gimmick. Again, she's a great worker, and it's wild to think that like, in my opinion, two of the best workers of this era are married to each other. Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Like, they could have a match with anyone or with a broomstick, and it would look good because they both know how to put it over and get it done. But let's get into the build-up here, Brian, because there's a lot to tell to get us into this match.
In November of 2018, the WWE planned a champion versus champion Survivor Series showdown that would pit the current champions of each brand, Raw and SmackDown, facing off in a battle for superiority. Raw Women's Champion Ronda Rousey was set to face SmackDown Women's Champion Becky Lynch. But on the Raw before Survivor Series, Becky Lynch suffered a broken nose and a concussion during an invasion brawl that was to set up the premium live event when Nia Jax connected hard with a punch. Because of this, the planned Becky vs. Ronda match had to be canceled, and instead, Ronda would face a former SmackDown champion in Becky's place. That opponent would end up being Charlotte Flair. Ronda would pick up the victory at Survivor Series via disqualification and go on to face Nia Jax, who took Becky out at the TLC event in December, as Jax had won a Battle Royal to earn that match. At the Royal Rumble, Becky Lynch made her long-awaited return in a losing effort to Asuka for the SmackDown title, but then eliminating Charlotte Flair to win the 30-woman Royal Rumble and earn a shot at the championship of her choosing. The next night on Raw, Becky chose Ronda as her Mania opponent. As part of the storyline, Lynch suffered a knee injury in her match against Asuka at the Rumble and refused to have it examined by medical personnel. Stephanie McMahon told Lynch that either she had to get the exam or she would be suspended. Lynch refused the exam and then attacked both Stephanie and Triple H and was suspended. Lynch was then revealed to be cleared the next week, and after apologizing to Stephanie, had her suspension lifted, but then Vince McMahon decided to overrule and suspend Becky for 60 days, which meant she wouldn't be at WrestleMania. McMahon instead declared that Charlotte Flair was going to be Ronda Rousey's opponent at Mania. On February 25th, Lynch attacked Rousey and was arrested. Rousey then demanded Lynch be reinstated. This caused Stephanie to declare that the SmackDown title was vacant, reinstated Lynch, and then set up a match for the vacant title at Fastlane. Rousey protested that she did not vacate the title, causing Stephanie to change the Fastlane match, with a new stipulation being that if Lynch won, she would be added to the Charlotte vs. Ronda match and make it a triple threat at WrestleMania. During this match, Charlotte had Becky in the figure 8 leg lock when Ronda came down and attacked Becky Lynch, giving Lynch the disqualification win and then thus inserting her into the title match at WrestleMania.
Can I just tell you, I love how you summed that up. That is incredibly great storytelling by weaving in all of the performers with the authority figures. And this was at a time, Vince was still involved, but Stephanie and Triple H were really more of the out front piece at this point and starting to do a lot. Though, make no mistake, Vince had a lot to say and everything that was going on here. And to do that, though, at a time when fans know that's what's happening anyway, and just to acknowledge it and play along with it, it's like the times when SNL cuts to Lorne Michaels and he's going like, we probably shouldn't say that joke, but since you've already said it, we'll do it anyway, And I love they set all this up. Like, you knew Ronda was going to come down and cause mayhem because that was her whole thing, was mayhem. And they kind of put a little bit of the Roddy Piper gimmick to her because it fit. It totally worked. And I want to just pause for a minute, though, and talk about the figure 8 leg lock and how devastating that looks when Charlotte does it right. It's the figure 4, but then she does this like back handstand thing that looks like The Exorcist, and it looks like it hurts her more than anybody. But it's hell. And but that's not even my favorite Charlotte move. My favorite Charlotte move is that big ass diving moonsault because she's so friggin' tall. To see her do that is awesome. But no, all of that though, Brian, you see how all these other women are involved in this throughout. We've got a women's Royal Rumble. We got Nia Jax in and out of this thing. We've got Asuka. There's lots of stars going around. And they did that, I think, to make sure we've got the top 3 people for this, right? We really got the right ones. And then they make the decision, hey, we're going to main event y'all at WrestleMania. It's going to be the closer match of the night for this big, and this is a massive WrestleMania, as we'll talk about in a minute. But just great storytelling in the setup, man. This is a great story to follow, and it was fun to go back and revisit some of those moments and think about that as we got to do this show.
Can I tell you how upset I was watching this storyline unfold?
Oh,
as
really?
I was going through. Oh, God. Okay. I love Charlotte. She's a great wrestler, but I just get so sick of her being in the title match every single time. So it was supposed to be Ronda Becky, right? Awesome. And then to just insert Charlotte into it just upset me the whole time. So yeah, it's great storytelling, and they did a good job doing it, but I wanted Ronda Becky. I didn't want Ronda Becky Charlotte.
Can I tell you why it never bothered me? And I think it's because I grew up in the South and I had to deal with the fact that Alabama football, even when they weren't any good, kept inserting themselves in the damn conversation all the time. So I just feel like Charlotte is pretty much like the Cowboys or Alabama. They refuse to not be part of the story. You will talk about them. And some of that is Charlotte's own personality, and some of it is she's a draw, man. She sells, like, even when she's being super heel, and she's a great heel. She just sells, and if you love to hate her, then you're still going to show up and watch her and buy T-shirts. But I hear you. It does get a little bit like, so I think you used to call it in TNA the annual titling of the Sting.
Yeah.
And so some of that happens with Charlotte too. But yeah, I hear you. But I was pumped for it. I liked it. I thought it was going to give us fun, though I'm with you. Becky and Ronda, I thought were going to be the tear the house down match, but you add Charlotte in, now you've got this star power, for sure, to really amp up the wattage.
Yeah, no, I agree, but yeah, you didn't get it for Survivor Series, and now it was like, okay, now we're going to finally get it. Maybe it's too late, maybe it's not, who knows? And then they just throw all these loops and you're like, what is going on here? But it was good. It was good TV. It was good storytelling, and it made the match feel much bigger than maybe it would have.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the scene here, Brian, because it doesn't get much bigger than this. The newly christened MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the home of the NFL's New York Giants and the Jets. It's an outdoor stadium in April in New York. That's a gamble. A big gamble.
It was cold that day too.
It was cold, but the weather did cooperate for the most part with them. It's really what led them to do Lincoln Financial Field in Philly. Yeah. Eventually, even though that was a cold and kind of wet WrestleMania too. But these outdoor stadiums always a roll of the dice, even in good weather. But we're gonna do this in New York. But yeah, why not? Let's do it right in the shadow of New York. Attendance between 68, 70,000 between tickets, pay-per-view buys, the network, the merch, and all that. The WWE made an astonishing almost $17 million on this event. That is astronomical to think about.
That's huge. and I know they've probably done better since then with the 2-night whole thing and getting all that going, but $17 million on one show. It's insane. And just imagine what the New Jersey, New York area brought in as well. Like, oh yeah, they bid huge numbers for WrestleMania to get them to come in, but they make so much money. And to think that WWE pulled $17 million on their own on this, wow,
it's pretty wild. Yeah, and we won't really want to talk about it, but they did have a lot of transportation issues that they were told would be taken care of, and narrator, they were not taken care of. So there was a lot of issues getting in and out of there. But I could see it with that many folks. The whole weekend was huge, and everything was massive, and it's fitting that this is the last one they did that was the mega show, like this. And you've got everybody on this thing, man. You've got the Raw commentary team is Cole and Graves, Corey Graves, Renee Young sits in with them. You got Tom Phelps, Byron Sexton. You got the 205 Live team. Remember that show? Nigel McGuinness and Aiden English out there. And you got people popping in like Shawn Michaels and Jerry Lawler and, all the commentaries going on. It's going to be packed. And it's 12 matches on the main show, 4 on the pre-show. 16 matches. If you watch this WrestleMania, you were really tempted to take the Monday after off. And in fact, I think I did, because I just knew. I was like, there's no way I can go function after this the next day. So, which is, I'm so glad they've split it now, because it's so much more manageable, right? That's a long night to watch wrestling.
It was a long night. I remember how long it was, thinking, looking at my watch, going, my goodness, when is this show going to end? And I felt like I'd been watching all freaking day.
Yeah.
If you watched any of the pre-show, not even before the matches, you'd been invested since probably, 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock or whatever it was. It was a long, long day.
It's like watching the Super Bowl, but longer. If you watch all the stuff leading up to the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl actually ends at like a decent hour, for the most part, and then you're done. You just go home. But yeah, this is nuts. So on the pre-show, I want to run through this card real quick though. On the pre-show, Tony Nese beats Buddy Murphy for the Cruiserweight title. Carmelo wins a 17-woman battle royal. Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder defeat the Revival, Wilder and Dawson, for the Raw Tag Team titles. And Braun Strowman wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Any of those you think you would have, oh man, I wish that was on the main show? Because I kind of felt okay that all of them were on the pre-show.
The only one that probably deserved to be on the main show would have been, the Kurt Hawkins, Zack Ryder versus the Revival that everyone knows now as FTR. That probably deserved to be on the main show, but everything else, no. The Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal was cool when it first happened. Ever since then, it's just been kind of a joke, and why bother? It's to get everyone on the show. I get it. You give a guy a payday. I mean, this is going to be the biggest payday they get all year.
Oh, yeah.
$17 million, divide that up with payout for the wrestlers. Holy crap.
Yeah. Everybody got paid.
Yeah, no doubt. But otherwise, nah. Everything else is just kind of, it's crowd pleasing because people are going to be there for 10 hours.
Yeah, I mean, that's another reason you're making that much money. You're feeding people 3 or 4 meals at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, all day. So, okay, on the main card, we jerked the curtain with Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. What a killer match.
What the hell? Like, Brock Lesnar was so mad that he couldn't be the main event that he's like, just put me out there first. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yes, he lost and left.
He did. He left that right after his match. He's like, I'm going out first. I'm going to do what I have to do and then get me out of here. Like, that was crazy.
It was crazy. But again, and we've seen it a few times in his career, Seth Rollins opening up a Mania is usually a good idea. Like,
absolutely.
He will get you going. AJ Styles took out Randy Orton. That was a great match. You get 2 bangers right out of the gate. The Usos won a fatal 4-way match for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. They beat Aleister Black and Ricochet, Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura, and The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro. In a pretty good match. I mean, that's a lot of meat in the ring at one time.
Meat match, they'd call that today. But yes, and Usos, again, this is back when they were winning titles. It was almost the annual titling of the Usos, right?
Well, yeah, they were trading them with the New Day,
all day, back and forth. Yeah, and I'm surprised the New Day wasn't in this. Like,
I know,
kind of crazy to think about there. But look at these tag teams. How Aleister Black and Ricochet, an odd pairing. Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura. That seems like an odd pairing. Now the Bar, I remember that was a good pairing. Those
they
two
actually work. Yeah, Sheamus and Cesaro are really good. Yeah, Black and Ricochet I get because they both can kick and fly. It's Rusev and Nakamura are the two that you're like, these are not like the other things.
It's an odd one, but
but got the guys on the show. They got a payday. Speaking of something that I got tired of annually, the annual Shane McMahon does something stupid match where he beat the Miz in a Falls Count Anywhere match. I think the Miz threw him through a table, but Shane landed on him and got pinned or something. It was wild. Just Shane doing something to hurt himself terribly is an annual WrestleMania thing, or it was for years. Thank goodness it's not anymore. Okay, these next one, remember these names? The Iconics. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce won a fatal 4-way for the women's tag titles over Bayley and Sasha Banks. That's a great team. Nia and Tamina, that's a really good team. And then Beth Phoenix and Natalya, which are just, I guess they're just there to be together, and get pinned. But remember the Iconics and when they were a thing? I mean, holy cow.
I love the Iconics. I still follow Cassie to this day to keep up with her. She's just getting back into wrestling. She had her first match in I don't know how long. She's got 2 kids now. She's married to Shawn Spears.
Didn't know that. Okay.
NXT's new North American champion, by the way. So I loved them. I thought they were a fantastic tag team. They had the it factor where they just were comedic gold. Timing was everything, and they were great. So I hope they make their way back to WWE at some point because they were just so good.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun for sure. So this next one, Kofi Kingston beat Daniel Bryan for the WWE title. Back when Daniel Bryan had what you call wooden and eco-friendly title belt. He was doing his eco warrior gimmick, and Kofi beat him. But Kofi was over huge then. Everybody was excited for Trouble in Paradise to knock off the goat hippie at that point. People had turned on Daniel Bryan at that point after all the hell he went through to finally win that thing, and then they turned him heel.
I was one of the people who was not excited for Kofi Kingston. I knew he was going to win this match, and I was like, this is why. Like, you got 3 guys in the New Day. Of the 3 guys, you picked this one. Nothing against Kofi. He's a great worker and an entertaining guy. Just that's the least world title worthy guy in the group, in my opinion.
Maybe been around the longest. I don't know.
Well, yeah, probably. But I mean, Big E was standing right there. This is before he got injured. That's the guy I would have pushed to the moon in that group. But
yeah, I guess he's a better match. I mean, honestly, Xavier's a better size comparison for Daniel Bryan, but Kofi's not a big dude, so maybe they made it work that way. But just think about this. Both of the men's titles are long before we even get to the stretch run of this thing. Yeah. So they are doing everything they can. Now, part of it is, like you said, Brock Lesnar's like, I'm taking my payday and going home, so we're going first. So he's out. Fine. We're done with that. But they didn't even put this one anywhere near that end. They wanted to make sure the women had the spotlight in the end. So good move, but at this point, I'm like, this is usually when I felt this moment watching it, even again. I was like, this is usually when WrestleMania is done, and we got a long way to go.
A really long way to go. We still got, 6 matches? 5 matches?
6 matches, yeah. So you got a couple brutes. Roman Reigns beat Drew McIntyre here. Samoa Joe won the U.S. title, beat Rey Mysterio. Talk about a mismatch. Sheesh.
I bet that was really, fun, though, because Joe is one of the best to work with these smaller guys because he can put them over like $1 million and he can go with them, man.
Yeah, it's like we talked about with that triple threat in TNA. He was great.
I don't remember that match, but I bet it was really good.
It was a lot of fun to watch. I enjoyed watching it this time around. Triple H beat Batista in a no-holds-barred match where if Triple H lost, he had to retire from TV, but it was really Batista walking out and just doing Hollywood full-time. And they had pliers and ripping stuff out of each other. It was a crazy match. It was insane.
Isn't that the craziest thing? Like, we know Batista's going away, right? So why are you putting Triple H over him?
Do we need to answer that question?
I guess Triple H has to stay on TV, but
that was part of the deal. And look, no offense to Paul, I'm separating Paul Levesque, the executive now, from this character that he played at the time, because at the time I was dumb with Triple H. But
I love Triple H.
We all knew he was going to win. We'll have to do some Triple H main events.
The authority gimmick wore on me pretty fast, but I've always been a big Triple H fan.
We take the popcorn break match here with Baron Corbin, who retired Kurt Angle. What a footnote for Kurt Angle. Yikes.
Poor Kurt. What the hell? If I'm going back to WWE for one last match and they tell me we're going to have Baron Corbin take you out, why would he go with that?
I mean, he's a company guy, and he's like, hey, I'm going to put a guy over going out. That's how you do it in this business for the most part. But maybe he didn't know. Maybe he thought Corbin was going to be the next big thing. But at that point, wasn't he doing like his Olive Garden waiter gimmick? Like, it's kind of what he looked like. So.
I think that came a little later. But Corbin was a monster in NXT.
He had great moves.
Ever since he got to WWE, they just dropped the ball with him. And he, again, showing that Vince McMahon knows nothing to do with people who are over in another brand, even his own freaking brand.
Yeah, right? Which is wild.
Triple H made Baron Corbin look like a star. Vince McMahon made him look like a comedy character on accident.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, of all people, Kurt Angle could have wrestled any number of people on this card, and Baron Corbin's the one that they had to have him retire in his last match. It just seemed like a slap.
Well, just in terms of fantasy booking stuff, I kind of feel like because the Batista thing came together kind of late. And I often wondered, I'm like, if that hadn't happened and they didn't want to do it there, if it wouldn't have made more sense to have Triple H put him down.
It would have been better.
Yeah, it would have been a lot better because they had great matches together.
Absolutely.
But, oh, well. You get Finn Balor and his paint-up gimmick defeating Bobby Lashley, which made me very happy for the Intercontinental title. But back when they would let Finn have belts and things like that. So I feel for Finn some days, but
Hey
bless
man,
his heart.
Finn's in a great gimmick right now with
Oh, look,
the
no,
whole,
we're about to see that paint again. I
yeah.
venture to say so.
I love Finn Balor's character right now. He doesn't really
He's
need a
fun.
belt to be over, but
No.
they floundered him for quite a while. I'm glad to see him in a prominent story again.
Hey, good for him for hanging through and just being a dude, just gonna show up to work every day, do my
Absolutely.
thing. So and good for him. He's done great stuff. Now we finally get to the main event, Brian. It's just shy of midnight Eastern time when this is happening.
Oh, I remember. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So you and I are still texting each other somehow through this. Charlotte Flair flies in from a helicopter. Then we cut to Ronda Rousey coming out to Joan Jett and the Blackhearts playing Bad Reputation, which is awesome. Then Charlotte does her Ric Flair-esque entrance. And then Becky comes out with the man on these huge screens on MetLife Stadium. They finally get in the ring, and I kid you not, after midnight, the bell rings, and we go into the match. We've been a long time getting here, and oh boy, was that a long way to get there. Now, some good matches along the way. But you have teased this all night after promos, everything like that. I think I saw someone once said with all the promos and the videos and entrances, you watched like 95 minutes of people just walking to the ring in this WrestleMania before you saw anything in the ring.
Here's the thing, man. This night went so long that the crowd was exhausted. And you could tell, like, these women are giving it their all. It's a great back and forth between every one of them, but the crowd is almost like they're
worn
beat.
out.
They're beat.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a good job, but again, you're in open air, so the crowd alone gets thrown out the top of the stadium. You can't hear it as well, and then on top of that, they're just tired. It was a long day.
It was a long day, but for what it was, we got a whale of a match between these three women.
Absolutely, they worked their ass off. I love the beginning of the match where they're kind of sitting there, squaring up. And Ronda's looking back and forth between which one's going to attack her, right? Because they obviously Ronda's the biggest threat to both of them.
Yeah,
she's the unknown, right? She's been beating the crap out of everyone in the WWE since she came in, and so I just thought that was really cool. They slow rolled it, and then finally had Becky and Ronda go after it. And I love Charlotte just sitting back and watching. That was classic Flair, right? Classic.
Oh yeah,
that's the other
exactly
guys beat the tar out of each other.
Yeah, well, but what I love about it is that Ronda at one point decides, I'm not waiting on either of you. She goes right after Becky. She throws Charlotte over the top of the rope, and Charlotte's like, you know what? You're right. I'm just going to sit back and not deal with this problem right now. I'm going to let y'all beat the crap out of each other. But they are really going at each other, and then Flair and Becky get to go at each other because Ronda takes some hard bumps in this match, man. She gets cut up and beat up. You see the bruises on her legs and stuff.
Her legs got just destroyed.
Yeah, she really, really got beat up in this match.
She did. They went all out. Like, they were hitting each other pretty good. Protective, obviously, but they were going at it all out with each other, and it was really fun to watch. And they did a great job of giving each other the breaks they needed at the right time and letting the other two fight it out for a while. Every once in a while, Becky rolls out, and Charlotte and Ronda have their thing. Then Charlotte rolls out, Becky and Ronda. It was really well done to make it think like, wow, this is. And they didn't stop. Like, this was action the whole time. There were no rests.
No,
like, as far as the action going, it was all in, all out. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Lots of near falls. You get the second rope exploder suplex from Lynch on Flair, almost gets her in the middle of the ring, which was awesome. You've got power bombs on Ronda. They do double power bombs on Ronda.
That was
to
good.
Beat the crap out. That was
three of them. Yeah,
buddy. Yeah, you can see her taking them hard too.
Yeah,
and it was wild. Becky, my least favorite move Becky has, to disarm her. I hate that. I love arm bars. I don't like that one. It doesn't look great. Doesn't look like it would really do that much damage. But she's trying to do it. Ronda makes it through the ropes. She's still keeping the submission applied as if they're actually gonna, call it. I was a little surprised, by the way, too. Why not have a female ref do this? They've got one of the fellows, the referee in this thing.
I don't think the female refs were that prominent yet.
I knew they had a few, but they weren't.
I don't think they were used as like they are today. Today you got two prominent female refs that are used constantly. I don't think they had used them as much back then. I think they were still kind of getting used to that at this point.
Yep.
But my favorite part of this match was the escape, or the breakups, like the breakups of the pinfalls and things like that. Like you had Becky come off the top rope. Charlotte had the figure eight on her. She comes off the top rope with a freaking leg drop onto Charlotte to break up the figure eight. That was freaking awesome.
While she's in that backward pose too, I'm like,
phenomenal.
But again, that shows you that you've got the top people working in this, because only the top people know how to do that and protect each other, but make it look so good.
It was so great. They did it a ton of them, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Let's talk about the elephant in the room though in this match.
It's this friggin' ending. All right.
Oh.
Ronda is going for the Piper's Pit, which is kind of her angle slam type situation or whatever. And Becky counters into a crucifix pin, which is a great thing. Except the camera angle clearly shows at no point are Ronda's shoulders even remotely down during this.
Not until the third count.
Yeah, and even then, only one of them's down part of the time. And I don't know, and I haven't. I've heard it's hard to ever believe what anybody says after the fact. So it just looks like a botch. Just like a real botch.
I don't know, man. To me, it's like they did it on purpose to show that Ronda still didn't get pinned, but yet to get Becky the win. Because anybody who sees Becky pin Charlotte or Charlotte pin Becky, that doesn't satisfy you with this match. Everybody needs to see Ronda lose this match.
Right.
And so to save face with her, she doesn't have her shoulders pinned. The referee just doesn't look at it.
And I would agree with you if Ronda ever got back into this match with these people again. But as we will find out, that did not happen.
Well, she went away, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But it's
I don't know.
It seems like it's the right move. I agree. If somebody not named Ronda is going to win this, then she has to eat the pin. At some point, it's just going to happen. You're going to eat the pin, or lose some way. She's not going to tap out. Ronda probably stated very clearly in her contracts, like, look, you got to knock me out to beat me. I don't tap out. So, and I get that. Like, hey, you got a point of pride. Like, sure, she's earned that, in my opinion, for her sports career. You knock her out, because she has been knocked out, so she'll eat that. Like, sure, you get me in the face, I'm done. But it just, I don't know. I get the story idea of that. You're right, but they didn't play it well. Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. On one hand, it's neat because Becky was so over, and it was the right move. I think the right person won. I'll say now. I think it was right to get Becky to win, but it almost feels like somewhere they let them know, like, guys, it's almost 12:30. We got to get out of here. Like people.
Well, they went a while too.
They went 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Yeah, this is a good
match.
chunk of time.
Like the second longest match on the
card. Like I said before, they were going. Like this wasn't a typical 20-minute match. They were full stop the whole time, right? Every one of them was just working their asses off, which was great. Another botch, in the match was the table not breaking when they put Charlotte through it. That must have been a real bummer for them, because I'm sure that visual would have been outstanding if it actually broke the right way, but it didn't.
It kind of bent, a little funky, everything at that point looked tired. And I mean, the crowd was tired. The announce team was exhausted. You can poor Renee's over there giving it everything she's got. She's probably down in Red Bulls just trying to get through this. And Cole and Graves are just exhausted. They've been at this forever, and they're giving it a lot, but they're tired. Everybody's tired. The crowd's dead, and like you said, after a 20-minute sprint, this is what this was. This is like, I'm a runner, so if you run long distances a lot, and then you show up to run a 5K, you just like, it's all gas, baby, no brekes. Well, at the end of that, you feel it. Like you're not doing that last quarter mile. You're like, well, I'm glad this is over, because I ain't got nothing left. And I felt that for these women too, because I could feel like they were like, I'm so dead. Like, and you could tell one time, like, Ronda, who's incredibly strong, is having a hard time picking up Becky, and who's not a big person, and you can tell she's like, Becky's helping her as much as she can to try to get her over. And it just for it to botch at the end like that just kills me, because it's like, dang, it's such a great match, but if you get past the ending, it's still pretty cool. Rebooking it, we kind of transitioned into that real quick. I said I feel like the right person won. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. She had the momentum going into this match, and she had the storyline to get her into this, and she was definitely the right pick to win this match. Now, just back to the ending really quick. Aside from the botch, I think the problem with the ending is it came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting that to be the finish. It didn't seem right to be the finish, and then it was. So I think that was kind of the problem. So I think I would have probably built a little more into that finish to bring it that way. I'm fine with the way it was finished, but it just seemed like it was out of nowhere. They could have done some more to kind of bring it about. That was a big issue. And then, of course, fantasy rebooking, for me, it should have always been Ronda Becky only. So if I were to rebook this, I would probably go with that angle instead. But for the three-way, it was absolutely phenomenal. So if you're going to go this three-way, I don't think you can rebook this. It was done so well.
I have one thing that I think might have made it, in retrospect, would have been a fun thing to see how they dealt with it. Becky's got her in that crucifix pin or whatever, right? And she doesn't quite have her, like she's wriggling, and the ref's like, I'm not going to count that. And then here comes Charlotte, and she pushes her down, and the pin happens. Then it's like, who wins? We create a little controversy with that because we're going to end up getting Becky and Charlotte a little bit later anyway. That sets that up even more naturally than what they did. I would have loved to have seen that because then it would have been like they both screwed her. At the last minute there. It would have been neat to see, but they didn't.
And you could have done Becky gets the Raw title and Charlotte keeps her SmackDown title at that point, too.
Yeah.
Then you would never had Becky 2 belts.
No, because that's the big aftermath. Becky becomes the only woman to hold both titles simultaneously. She bounces between Raw and SmackDown, earning her the Becky 2 belts nickname, the T-shirts, all that stuff. I got to tell you, that was pretty good. That's a good little gimmick for a short time.
It was good. It was fun. People liked it. It was it was neat. It was different. The only thing I didn't like was I think you have to defend each title separately.
Yeah,
and
on the same night, which is the stupid thing that they do
separately on the same night, which I think would have been much cooler to have that kind of concept than to have her just defend as both champions.
Yeah. So I mean, she got into a program with Lacey Evans with the Raw title. She's still dealing with Charlotte Flair on SmackDown. She beat Lacey Evans at Money in the Bank, but then lost to Flair. Dropping the SmackDown belt that night because obviously she had to do it twice, which is crazy. It was either that or do triple threats.
Which is the way you got to go.
Yeah. You got to get the belt off
both nights. Yeah. And one thing that drove me nuts about the Roman Reigns title reign for whatever 1,000 days or whatever was that he was defending both titles at the same time.
Yeah. Well, which is why eventually they just mashed them into one and said, we're not doing that.
They did, and then they just broke it up again and had it.
Yeah, well, now we got this other big gold monstrosity that everybody fights over. But, that's an ugly belt for a good idea, but that's another day on Donahue here. She and Lacey Evans had a pretty good program, though. I liked Lacey
Absolutely.
Evans. I thought she was good. And so, yeah, they had a good program going. Flair would keep on, doing her thing on SmackDown. Ronda would take time off, and it was like she just went completely away, man. Like she did not get back involved in these things for a number of times.
She did go away. Her contract was through WrestleMania to WrestleMania, and she held to her contract, and then she went off, and they were trying to start their family, and eventually they would get the family. She would come back, and she would be involved in a tag team. It was her idea to be involved with Shayna Baszler in the tag team division to kind of like spark that up a little bit and also to have fun with her friend because they're real life good friends.
Yeah.
And then she kind of disappeared and she ended up showing up on a couple independent cards, believe it or not. And then that's the last we've heard of Ronda in wrestling.
Yeah, it's wild to think that in 1 year, like that's a show in and of itself, the year of Rousey. And all the impact she had, but it's memories now. It's gone because Flair and Becky are still out there doing things. Lacey Evans isn't anymore. I think she's kind of stepped away from the spotlight.
She's doing her adult-themed stuff now.
Yeah, is that what? Okay, I did not realize she had done that, but okay. But I did enjoy her as a performer. But in the end of all of this, we got the main event to celebrate the women in the company at an apex time for them, and man, it was a wild event. It really was. And even for as long as WrestleMania 35 is and stuff, this match is so hot. And I'm with you on the ending. It feels like it does come out of nowhere. It's almost, that's why it feels like the botch in some way. It's like, was that not supposed to happen? Maybe it was supposed to happen.
No, I think the pin was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
but the problem is that people were it was starting to climax. It felt like, and then just stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And they could have built a little more climax into it to make it a little more meaningful, and it just kind of came out of nowhere.
The only criticism I put to that is that's a little bit on Ronda's side and just inexperience, because the cradle pin to beat the champion is not an unheard of thing. Ric Flair was known to drop belts like that all the time. Matter of fact, it's one of his favorite ways to drop it was to be cradled up all the time. And there's a way to do that, and it pops the crowd huge. And then there's this when it happens, and you're like, what? It's just like the song just cuts at 2:15. There should have been more. They needed something else to get it up. But Brian, to be real, at this point, like it was, everybody had gone so long into the night and stuff. I don't know that they had it. I don't know if they could have got everybody back to do it. So,
yeah, it's a valid point. Definitely a valid point. Ronda, for all the love and hate that she gets from the wrestling community, she really did what they wanted her to do. She brought eyes to the table. She really helped build that women's division. You talk to any of the female wrestlers who were around during this time, and they loved her. They loved her because she was there to just do whatever. It wasn't about Ronda at that point. It was about helping get women's wrestling to a larger audience. And it happened, and they did it. Now, TNA, had a great women's division, but again, not as many eyeballs on it. This was a good thing for WWE to do to bring Ronda in here. She did everything she needed to do. She got that title over, dominating in that division, and then bowed out and gave it to someone else to lead the way. And more power to Ronda for that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, she stuck to her contract. She said, I'm going to do this for a year, and that's going to be it. And so, even though, and maybe there's some dignity in leaving people wanting more and wondering, what could have been, maybe.
She got a nice pop when she came back.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think, again, she brings a legitimacy factor to these things that just cannot be denied, because it's hard to, it is impossible for me to tell you all how big of a deal it was to get somebody like Ronda Rousey to be a full-time performer in WWE at the time. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like that again, So I don't know of another fighter that's that over to do that. Maybe before he became incredibly problematic. Maybe if you'd gotten Conor McGregor.
That's what I was going to say too.
Yeah, but
that's probably the name.
Yeah, that would have been it. But otherwise, I don't know that we'll ever see another one. But hey, that brings us to the final bell here and a wrap on another episode of Main Event Maniacs, Brian. And boy, what a monumental one to get into as we get headlong into WrestleMania season here.
Absolutely. This was, you look back at the WrestleManias before this, and we had a lot of the same type of stuff happening in the main event scene. So this was a breath of fresh air for the main event of WrestleMania. And, the women were just on fire at this time. The women's division was really done well. And I think a lot of that has to do with Stephanie McMahon getting involved in it. And that, props to her. She really listened to the audience's pleas and then went to work and did a great job. And so just really good stuff. This is a great match, and it's well worth going out of the way to see it if you've never seen this one before. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, 100%. Can't say it any better myself, my friend. Well, folks, thanks again for joining us on Main Event Maniacs. You'll find this show on the very feed that you're listening to for the Juice Box. Feel free to connect with Juice Springsteen himself. Follow Juice on Twitter, X at Juicy Steen, on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at Juicy Steen, and of course this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. If you have time, swing by, leave a rating and review, share the show on your socials. We thank you for the support. Always a lot of fun to get to talk about main events here as part of the Juice Box family.
That's right. And if you want to follow Jay or myself, you can do that. Jay is at JRan here on X, and I am at Brian Thomas 878. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for the show, send them to us via X, DM us. Let us know what kind of main events you're looking forward to us talking about, because we're always looking for different ones to try.
Absolutely. So for Brian, I'm Jay. Until next time, this has been your Main Event.